Is Coach Carlisle there? Mavs head coach. Hi, Coach. How are you today?
I am here. And I'm pretty sure Billis does have a jet. So
really,
he's with that law firm, and he's a partner.
Oh.
And they got to have a jet.
Where do you sit on the team plane?
I sit in the middle section. There's a section where the coaches, assistant coaches. So the players are up front. There's a middle section in the back section. Broadcasting and PR and stuff like that. So,
do you care what the players are doing on the plane?
No, I trust them.
How were you guys on the Celtics? How were those plane trips?
Well, back in those days, we were flying commercial. We were going through airports, and it was quite different. Guys like Larry Bird, we would go into an airport and he'd kind of find a corner and, kind of face out the window. And because at that time he was the best player in the world and he was getting mobbed, for autographs and the like.
I just can't imagine commercial travel. Like Will Chamberlain flew commercial. I can't imagine what that did to the careers, your body, just the flying time, connecting flights delayed, canceled. Crazy.
Well, it certainly extended Jay Billis's career.
Congrats on the win last night. I was curious about the defense that you had on Zion. It felt like that Porzingis was always going to be help there, but what was the strategy there?
Well, the number one thing is you got to get back because Zion gets down the floor very quickly, and if he's in space and they throw it up, he goes up and gets it. If you try to front him, they throw it over your head, and he just gets it and dunks it. So we were just trying to stay in front of him, keep a body there, bring help when we could. He's very, very difficult to play because of how quickly he attacks and how dynamically he attacks. But it was his first back-to-back last night, and I thought he played extremely well considering that fact.
Yeah, it is interesting. He looked tired last night. I don't know if you got that sense watching him.
Well, we were hoping that the whole team would feel tired. But, they lost the game the night before at home to Minnesota, which was a big game for them. And, they came in, obviously very, very motivated last night. And, in national TV games, there's a different vibe to them because they are longer, timeouts are longer. There's just kind of a different air to the game. And I think Zion probably was a bit tired. I didn't talk to him. I didn't ask him. But I do know that, in overtime at the end, they threw the ball to him and he just, he blew to the rim and laid it in quick twice, and he didn't look very tired on those two plays.
Talking to Rick Carlisle, the Mavs head coach. They got the Grizzlies coming up tomorrow night. I love how we always have to have a comparison. Who is the comp? And you've been through this before with players you've played with or you've coached. And, even Porzingis, I don't know if there's a comp for Porzingis. We might have a better comp for Luka than we do Porzingis. I find him fascinating because how many players can give you 5 threes and 5 blocks in the same game?
Well, there aren't many. And, in today's world of metrics, the guys that can make the high-value shots, which are the threes, and prevent the higher-value shots, which are the layups, are at an all-time premium. And so, we're fortunate. Kleber is a guy that can make threes and is a good rim protector, but he's not 7'3", So there's a bit of a difference there. Porzingis is a very, very special player with very special abilities. And as you saw last night, it's not just being able to shoot. and block a shot. I mean, the guy drives it, he passes it, he rolls and finishes. He's got real feel for the game. So, I'm just, super impressed and very happy for him, with Player of the Week last week. It kind of culminates and validates all the work he's put in over 2 years to get back and try to get back to where he wants to be.
When did you realize that you were turning the team over to Luka? On the floor.
Pretty early. The first year, it was just a matter of when the structure of the team could be adjusted to do that. It was clear to me the first time I saw him play a pickup game at our place in September of 2018 that he was legitimately a point guard, even though he's 6'7.5" and big, strong, and all that. The New York trade helped facilitate that. And then, there were a couple of moves last summer that helped structure the team so that, we had some depth at point guard and some shooting around him, and along with some toughness and length.
How do you add, and you were around Bird, so great players always add something every year, but let's just say offensively, what would you want Luka to work on at the ripe old age of 21 for next year?
For me, he just needs to keep refining his game. I mean, his game is very, very special. What he can do with the ball, with his ball skills, and being able to step back and accelerate and decelerate and, step back, keep his dribble, and then go by somebody. It's just freaky, and so, the things that go along with that, the finishing, the threes, all those kinds of things. He's going to continue to refine his ability to make the proper reads, et cetera. And I think all great young players, as they go from their first to second to third to fourth year, realize that continuing to work on their body and just every year, doing things to, help your durability, help your, ability to stay on the floor. You're going to have games like last night where you unexpectedly go to overtime and all of a sudden you're playing 45 minutes or 40 minutes instead of, 35, and you've got to be able to absorb that.
Who would be your MVP right now in the league?
Wow. I don't know. I haven't watched. I haven't studied the stats. I know the conversation really is Giannis and LeBron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very close. And Milwaukee's been so dominant, and they're going to have. I haven't looked at the standings today, but they're going to have the best record most likely, and
they'll have 70 wins maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You look at the league this year and what's going on with those two guys. I mean, they both deserve it. I mean, I to me, you just get two trophies and you get them together and you have a picture. I mean, they're just. And the West and the East are different, and so in so many ways, what LeBron is doing is even that much more impressive. And look, the same thing's going to come up with Morant and Williamson. And I mean, hey, get two trophies out, man.
How about they play one-on-one, Coach?
No, there could be an injury. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that. But I just think these guys are both, transcendent talents. I mean, we're so lucky. I mean, Doncic comes in the league last year. You got Morant and Williamson this year, and there's a lot of other great young players. It's just a really, really exciting time in the NBA.
And they're all like if I got a team. I wanted to have my team, and they're under 23 years of age, and I'll give you the rest of the league. Like, you can have an under 23 and put together an unbelievable team, and that would be unheard of a decade ago, 2 decades ago.
Yeah, you're right, and but these things are cyclical. We don't get this wave of generational talent, every year, every other year, every 2 years in a row like this very often. And so it's just it's been a special period for the injection of talent, and it's not only talent. I mean, let's face it, you're talking about major charisma. I mean, these guys. I mean,
yeah.
Luka Doncic and Zion and Morant. I mean, these guys are, they're not just great basketball players. These guys are like movie stars, with the personality they have on the floor and how they command the attention on social media and those kinds of things. It's really quite an amazing time.
35 years ago this week, you know what happened?
35 years ago this week.
Yep.
Gosh, it's March of 20. It was 85. I don't know. Go ahead.
Bird scored 60 against the Hawks in New Orleans.
Hey, you should have seen what we were doing the night before. If you would have seen our group that night in New Orleans, you wouldn't have thought that 60 points out of anybody was going to be possible.
How bad did it get on Bourbon Street with you guys?
I don't know if it was bad. It's just, this is one of the legendary things about, Larry Bird. I mean, he just, and I remember that game so well. University of New Orleans, the Atlanta bench, every time he throw in another howitzer haymaker shot. There was one that was a step back 3 where he made the shot, but then they disallowed the basket, and all those guys, were falling sideways, and almost a couple of them were falling on the floor. It was just, it was something else. And the other thing about it was that, in the previous, 8 to 10 days, I don't remember the exact time.
McHale set the record, right?
Yeah, McHale had set the record at 56, I think, against Detroit. And in that game, Bird was the guy that went out of his way to keep feeding Kevin, over and over and over again. And I remember after that game, I think Kevin said, "Hey, this is fine. This is nice, but Larry's gonna break this. It's just a matter of when."
It's
and so
temporary. Yeah.
Yeah, and so 10 days later in New Orleans, of all places, Larry just, it was.
Do you think he did it on purpose, Rick, that McHale got the record and then Bird saw an opportunity where, you know what, might as well do it tonight?
I don't know. I'd be really speculating there. I mean, it's really interesting. We played a game my rookie year. I think it was in Utah or something like that, and we got way ahead. It was the height of this, Larry's greatness, and the team was spectacular. And Utah was an up and coming team. They had some talented guys, et cetera. Well, we got up. Larry hit a shot to put us up, 28 or something with a minute to go in the third quarter. So Casey Jones calls my name to go in the game, and I go in for Larry. And I don't remember his exact stats. I just know that he had over 30 points, 12 or 14 rebounds, 10 or 11 assists, and 9 steals. Okay, so he was 1 steal away from a quadruple double. And I remember being in the locker room after the game, and one of the writers asked him, "Hey, Larry, did you have any interest in going back in there and getting that steal to get a quadruple double?" And this relates to your question about 60 points, and this is one reason I just never I just never felt that stats were the thing for him. He said, when you're a younger player, and you're trying to make your way in the league. This is a very honest answer. He goes, sometimes things like that are, important to you. Because, but once you get your contract, and then you realize that, the real respect comes from, how many championships you get. Stuff like that just doesn't matter to me anymore. So I thought it was, an amazing answer and very, very matter of fact, very authentic.
Well, he could average a triple double. I agree with you. I don't think it was about stats because it wasn't a thing back then. I know Oscar did it, but Russell Westbrook made it popular. But I think Birdie could have averaged a triple double for a few of those seasons. Can you do the quick story? About when your coach, I think it was Casey Jones, forgot your name in the huddle. Can you do that story real quick?
Which time? No. It only happened one time, but
because Bird played a role in that.
Yeah, no, it was. We were in March of my first year, and we were playing a game in Hartford, Connecticut. Back in those days, we played 3 regular season games there, and so Casey walks down the bench. I hadn't played in a couple weeks, and he looks at me and he goes, he kind of gives me a head nod and he goes, "You got Danny." So that was Danny Ainge. So I, nudged my way into the huddle, and Casey starts, drawing up a play, and he goes, "Larry, you're here," and he puts an L, and he goes, "Robert, you're here." It's Robert Parrish. He puts an R, and Kevin, you're here. He puts a K. Dennis, you got the ball. He puts a D and a circle and a squiggle where the guy's dribbling the ball, and he goes, he goes, "You right here." He puts and he just puts like a scribble mark, like just and so and then he calls the name of the place. So we stand up out of the huddle, and Larry goes, "Casey, I want you to meet Rick. He's been with us for 6 months. Rick, this is Casey." And we laughed, and it was. And I remember we were playing against Chicago, and it was it's a serious business for me. I'm trying to stay in the league and stuff like that, but the levity of the situation actually helped get me a little bit loosened up. I actually went in there. I think I hit a bucket and actually did okay, But
That's
it was
great.
It was a funny moment.
That's great. Hey, it's always great to talk with you, Rick. We appreciate your time, and good luck against the Grizzlies, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, have Billis fire up that.
Oh, I know. I'm
gonna
have to check with him. That's Rick Carlisle, head coach of the Dallas Mavericks.